I think there are obvious things that culturally come from the United States. I think there's so much of music and jazz and rhythm and blues that come from the United States. I think there's some areas of art, Jason Pollock, and continuing the abstractionists that are the United States. I think not so much the telling of stories in movies, but the way we make movies and the way we edit movies and the stories that we tell in movies. And I have to put away the last year and a half because it's just a miserable time for the world with the economy. And with such a bad economy, everyone is frightened. And of course, the last thing you can be if you're in the arts is frightened. But it is the way our industry is right now. Everyone is really scared about what the future is going to hold for filmed entertainment. Everyone's very scared about where the world is going in general. So it's not a good time. But by and large, I think there are many things that we can contribute to world culture. So yeah, and I think there's a lot to learn about the film industry. How we write movies, how we edit movies, how we shoot movies, and our production values are things we can help the world understand and perhaps explain how our films are currently so dominant in the world market, at least in terms of theaters. I like a lot diversity. And I like a lot individual cultures. I'm really unhappy when I go to Paris and I see Banana Republic and McDonald's. I would rather see French designers. I'd rather see French food. I actually don't know if the mixing of cultures is what we should be concerned with. Certainly understanding different cultures is the way I would put it, as opposed to mixing cultures. Obviously, as the chair, the students that we select in our graduate school and for undergraduates, we love the idea that they come from diverse backgrounds. It's not that we want them to end up when they graduate with a single view of what culture is. On the contrary, we want them to learn how to preserve the storytelling that they want to do, which may or may not be about their own culture. But there's anything that we want to encourage, it's the sharing of and the understanding of that. To me, and this is the good and the bad, every time I'm in France on any sort of panel, it's, there are usually at least one or two people on that panel who talk about the terrible influence of Hollywood movies and how there must be restrictions on the importation and release theatrically of American movies. And my answer to that is I can't help it in the cultures around the world if people want to see American films. And censorship and stopping them from seeing American films isn't, to me, the answer. What we could learn from each other, I think what the world can learn from American films is the way we cut and the emphasis we put on writing and the fastness with which our movies go forward. What we can learn from the rest of the world is from the storytellers of the world, their particular stories. I'm not really interested in stories that play for the world and all this idea of, well, let's see, does this have the foreign appropriate international components to make this movie? Because I for one, like very particular microcosmic stories, and then I want them to reflect the macrocosm. The idea of what we would do to make a culturally uniform world is not interesting to me at all. What we could do to highlight a culture, to understand a culture, to tell stories in film that can relate to a multitude of cultures is the direction I believe in. With the method of communication and the new technologies so absolutely accessible to more and more parts of the world, it seems to me vital that Hollywood, the American film industry, recognize that, adjust to it. And I think the studios are. They're starting departments, companies in partnerships to encourage local films. They may be remade in English, they may not be, but they are particularized because the generalization is by and large boring. The real question is going to be what new technologies do to the storytelling. There's a lot of information about how attention span is very limited on other devices than a large screen or a television set. That, let's say, for a computer or for your cell phone or for your BlackBerry or Greenberry or whatever berry it is, that you can only hold someone's attention for X number of minutes. And somehow or other, it's under 10, it's under 8, depending on who you're talking to and what their research is. We don't actually know what we can do. We know there are thousands of things posted to YouTube, including feature films that are all kinds of lengths. But we don't know really, because it's just too new a market, what is going to really emerge as the technological model. The storyteller will help define that. The technology will help define the stories. So when you say what will happen, it's like you're in the midst of it. And so I don't really know. I could look into my crystal ball and say, I think it's going to be a series. I think if you can attract someone's attention and you can look at things at will, that it may be continuing characters, because you may want to use the handheld device when you're stopped at a stoplight, when you're waiting for your significant other, when you have a few minutes, and you may be enthralled enough that you want to revisit it, so it may be a continuing story. But that's kind of the best crystal ball gazing I can do. And of course, the other part of it is we are just now beginning to evolve the financial models. And the financial models are the other thing that's going to be significant. Does that mean that we're going to take the model of the advertiser? Then it's going to be like the TiVo. You're going to be able to get rid of it. What are you going to do about viral marketing? So all this is very interesting and, to be continued for sure.